Command declares her dead. Family gets the call. Base prepares her funeral. But hours later, she walks through the front gate carrying 2 wounded soldiers she refused to leave behind. Sometimes the dead don't stay dead when brothers need saving. Before you watch full story, comment, "Elo, from which country are you watching?" Don't forget to subscribe. The desert base sits under a blanket of stars. Guard towers pierce the darkness, their searchlights sweeping the perimeter. Inside the command center, monitors glow with tactical displays showing satellite feeds across hostile territory. Colonel Sarah Martinez stares at the screens, her weathered face tight with concern. 6 hours of radio silence from one of her best operators weighs heavily on her mind. Sergeant Torres adjusts his headset and shakes his head. "Still no contact from Ghost 7, ma'am. Complete blackout since 1400 hours. Maya Chen had volunteered for the deep reconnaissance mission despite the risks. At 29, she had already completed 4 combat deployments and earned respect among the special operations community for her medical expertise and tactical skills. Her mission was simple in concept, but deadly in execution. Infiltrate enemy territory, gather intelligence on weapons caches, and return undetected. The first sign of trouble came when her scheduled communication check failed to come through. Maya was known for precision timing, never missing a checkpoint unless something had gone seriously wrong. When the second missed check passed, Martinez knew they had a problem. Satellite imagery from the target area shows significant enemy activity, reported Lieutenant Williams from the intelligence desk. At least 40 hostiles converging on her last known position. No movement detected from friendly forces. Martinez studied the thermal imaging feeds. Vehicles and personnel moved in organized search patterns across the terrain where Maya had been operating. The enemy response suggested they had detected her presence and were conducting a massive sweep operation. Any possibility she went to ground and is maintaining communication silence? Martinez asked, though she already knew the answer. Negative, ma'am. Her emergency beacon would have activated automatically if she was alive and mobile. The area has been completely overrun. The reality of the situation settled over the command center like a heavy blanket. Maya Chen, one of their most capable operators, had vanished into enemy territory with overwhelming hostile forces in pursuit. Standard protocol demanded they assume the worst. "Update her status to KIA pending recovery," Martinez ordered, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. "Begin family notification procedures." 40 miles away, Maya Chen pressed her back against a rocky outcrop, her breathing carefully controlled despite the pain shooting through her left shoulder. Blood seeped through her tactical vest where shrapnel from an improvised explosive device had found its mark 3 hours earlier. The explosion had thrown her 20 feet from her observation point, destroying her primary radio and jamming equipment. Her backup communications had been damaged in the blast, leaving her cut off from base with enemy forces closing in from multiple directions. But Maya wasn't alone in this hostile territory. During her reconnaissance, she had discovered something that changed everything. 2 Navy SEALs from a mission that had gone wrong 48 hours earlier. Petty Officer First Class Rodriguez lay unconscious, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle, and blood soaking through makeshift bandages around his abdomen. Beside him, Chief Petty Officer Jackson fought to stay conscious despite a severe head injury and what Maya suspected was internal bleeding. "We're not leaving you here," Maya had told Jackson when she first found them hidden in a bombed-out building. The SEAL team had been compromised during an extraction, and these 2 had been left behind when enemy fire forced their helicopter to abort the rescue. "You need to get out of here," Jackson had whispered through gritted teeth. "We're done for. Don't let us take you down too." Maya had ignored his protests and immediately began advanced medical treatment using her field surgical kit. She applied pressure bandages to Rodriguez's abdominal wounds and administered morphine for the pain. Jackson's head injury required careful monitoring, and she suspected he had suffered a severe concussion along with possible skull fractures. The sound of approaching vehicles forced Maya to make a critical decision. Her original mission was blown, communications were dead, and 2 American operators needed immediate medical evacuation. Following standard procedure would mean leaving them behind to die, while she attempted solo escape and evasion. Maya Chen had never followed standard procedure when lives were at stake. She dragged both SEALs deeper into the ruins of the building and began preparing for a fighting withdrawal that would take all 3 of them home. Her medical training told her that Rodriguez had maybe 6 hours before blood loss became fatal. While Jackson's head injury could deteriorate rapidly without proper treatment, using her survival kit and materials scavenged from the building, Maya constructed improvised stretchers from aluminum sheeting and paracord. She redistributed medical supplies to create individual aid bags for each wounded operator and planned a route that would avoid enemy patrol patterns while staying within range of terrain features that could provide cover. The next 12 hours became a blur of tactical movement and field medicine. Maya would move the SEALs one at a time, carrying Rodriguez first across dangerous ground before returning for Jackson. Every few hundred meters, she would stop to check vital signs, adjust bandages, and administer medications to keep them stable. Enemy search parties swept through the area in organized patterns, forcing Maya to take increasingly dangerous routes through terrain that military planners had considered impassable. She moved through dried creek beds that provided concealment but required her to carry both operators down steep embankments that tested the limits of her physical endurance. Rodriguez remained unconscious for most of the journey, which Maya took as both a blessing and a warning sign. His blood pressure was dropping despite her best efforts to maintain fluid levels with intravenous solutions from her medical kit. Jackson faded in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid enough to provide tactical advice about enemy positions, other times delirious from his head injury. "Leave me," Jackson mumbled during one of his conscious moments as Maya struggled to carry both SEALs up a rocky slope. "You can't make it carrying dead weight." "You're not dead weight until you're dead," Maya replied, adjusting her grip on the improvised stretcher. "And I don't leave people behind." The psychological strain of the mission pushed Maya beyond anything she had experienced in previous deployments. Every sound could indicate enemy contact. Every decision could mean the difference between life and death for all three of them. She found herself talking to the unconscious Rodriguez and the delirious Jackson, partly to maintain morale, and partly to stay alert during the long hours of movement. Maya's own injuries complicated the rescue effort. The shrapnel wound in her shoulder limited her range of motion and sent jolts of pain through her body every time she lifted the stretchers. Blood loss and dehydration were taking their toll, but she pushed forward using techniques learned during survival training that emphasized mental resilience over physical comfort. Navigation became increasingly difficult as Maya moved further from her original position. Without GPS or reliable communications, she relied on terrain features and celestial navigation to maintain a heading toward friendly territory. The route she chose avoided roads and known enemy positions but added significant distance to an already challenging journey. On the second day of movement, Maya encountered her closest call with enemy forces. A patrol of 12 insurgents had established a checkpoint directly across her planned route, forcing her to find an alternate path through terrain that required technical climbing skills while carrying wounded personnel. She spent 4 hours moving both SEALs around the enemy position, using ropes and anchors to lower them down cliff faces that would have been challenging for a single healthy operator to navigate. Rodriguez remained stable but unconscious, while Jackson's condition appeared to be deteriorating despite her medical interventions. "How much further?" Jackson asked during a brief moment of clarity as Maya checked his pupils for signs of increased brain swelling. 6 clicks to friendly lines, Maya lied, knowing it was closer to 15 kilometers of difficult terrain. "You're going to make it, Chief. Both of you are going home." Maya's field medical techniques went far beyond standard combat lifesaver training during the rescue. She performed procedures typically reserved for field hospitals, including chest decompression for Rodriguez when she suspected a developing tension pneumothorax, and careful neurological monitoring for Jackson to detect any changes in his head injury. Her medical kit had been supplemented with supplies scavenged from the abandoned building where she found the SEALs, including antibiotics and pain medications that someone had left behind during a previous evacuation. Maya rationed these carefully while maintaining detailed mental notes about dosages and patient responses. Back at Forward Operating Base Alpha, the official casualty notification process had begun. Maya's family received the dreaded visit from uniformed officers, and her personal effects were being prepared for shipment home. Memorial arrangements were discussed, and her photograph was added to the wall of operators who had made the ultimate sacrifice. Colonel Martinez struggled with the loss of one of her best soldiers. Maya Chen had been more than an exceptional operator. She had been a leader who inspired others through her competence and dedication. The tactical debriefing concluded that no one could have survived the enemy response that overran her position. Intelligence analysts updated their assessment of the failed mission, writing off the reconnaissance objective as a total loss that had cost a valuable special operations asset. Mission planners began discussions about alternate approaches to gathering the intelligence Maya had been seeking, though none of the alternatives offered the same probability of success. Fellow operators in Maya's unit processed the loss according to the unwritten rules of special operations culture. They honored her memory through continued professionalism and dedication to the mission, but the grief was real and affected unit morale in ways that would take time to heal. Maya herself was unaware of her official status as she continued the rescue mission. Her focus remained entirely on keeping 2 wounded SEALs alive, while navigating hostile territory that seemed determined to kill all 3 of them. Physical exhaustion pushed her beyond normal human limits, but her training and determination kept her moving forward. The 3rd day brought new challenges as Maya's own condition deteriorated. Blood loss from her shrapnel wound, combined with dehydration and physical exhaustion, was affecting her decision-making ability. She found herself making navigation errors and having difficulty maintaining the tactical awareness necessary to avoid enemy contact. Rodriguez's condition stabilized somewhat, though he remained unconscious and required constant monitoring. Jackson's head injury showed signs of improvement, with longer periods of consciousness and better cognitive function when he was alert. Maya took these positive signs as encouragement to continue pushing toward friendly territory. Enemy search efforts had diminished somewhat as the insurgent forces concluded that anyone in the target area had either been killed or had successfully escaped. This reduction in enemy activity allowed Maya to move more quickly, though she maintained careful operational security to avoid detection by remaining patrols. The final approach to friendly territory required Maya to cross open ground that offered little concealment. She waited until darkness provided some cover, then made the dangerous movement carrying both SEALs across terrain that left them exposed to observation from multiple directions. Maya's physical condition was approaching the breaking point as she reached the outer security perimeter of Forward Operating Base Alpha. Her legs shook with exhaustion. Her shoulder wound had reopened and was bleeding steadily, and her vision was beginning to blur from fatigue and blood loss. But Rodriguez and Jackson were still alive, and that was all that mattered. The guard at the main gate couldn't believe what he was seeing. Through the pre-dawn darkness, a figure approached carrying what appeared to be 2 wounded personnel. As the shape resolved in the poor light, the guard realized he was looking at someone who was supposed to be dead. "Holy shit," the guard whispered into his radio. "Ghost 7 is walking through the gate. She's got 2 wounded with her." The reaction at the command center was immediate and electric. Colonel Martinez rushed from her quarters, still in uniform from a night of sleepless worry about the failed mission. Medical personnel scrambled to prepare for wounded incoming personnel. Maya Chen walked through the main gate of Forward Operating Base Alpha 72 hours after being declared killed in action. She carried Petty Officer Rodriguez in a fireman's carry, while supporting Chief Jackson with her other arm. Both SEALs were conscious and talking, their survival a testament to Maya's field medical skills and refusal to abandon fellow operators. The psychological impact of Maya's return rippled through the base like a shockwave. Personnel who had been mourning her death suddenly found themselves celebrating her extraordinary rescue mission. The transition from grief to joy was immediate and overwhelming for many who had known Maya personally. Colonel Martinez met Maya at the gate, her professional composure cracking as she saw her presumed dead operator standing before her with 2 rescued SEALs. "Report, Sergeant," Martinez said, though her voice betrayed the emotion she was trying to control. Maya swayed on her feet, exhaustion and blood loss finally taking their toll. "Mission accomplished, ma'am. 2 friendly personnel recovered from enemy territory. They need immediate medical attention." Medical teams took custody of Rodriguez and Jackson, rushing them to the base hospital for treatment that would ultimately save both their lives. Maya submitted to medical evaluation despite her protests that she was fine, and doctors discovered that her injuries were more serious than she had admitted. The debriefing process revealed the full extent of Maya's unauthorized rescue mission. Rather than following standard escape and evasion procedures after her mission was compromised, she had chosen to rescue 2 wounded SEALs who would certainly have died without her intervention. Military regulations technically prohibited Maya's actions. She had abandoned her assigned mission, exceeded her authority by conducting an unauthorized rescue operation, and violated several tactical procedures by attempting to move wounded personnel through hostile territory without support. But regulations also recognized the moral imperative that no American service member should be left behind when rescue was possible. Maya's actions embodied the warrior ethos that had defined American special operations since their inception. The medical evaluation of Rodriguez and Jackson confirmed that Maya's field treatment had been exceptional. Her improvised surgical procedures, medication management, and continuous monitoring had kept both SEALs alive through injuries that would normally require immediate hospital-level care. Jackson later testified that Maya's expertise and dedication had saved their lives. She never stopped fighting for us, he told investigators. When everyone else had written us off, she refused to give up. That woman carried us home on her back. Rodriguez's recovery took several months, but he made a full return to duty. His abdominal injuries had been severe, but Maya's field treatment had prevented internal bleeding from becoming fatal. The doctors who treated him said that another few hours without medical intervention would have meant certain death. Maya's transformation from presumed casualty to living hero became legendary within the special operations community. Her story was cited in training programs as an example of the warrior ethos in action, demonstrating how individual courage and expertise could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The tactical lessons learned from Maya's mission influenced future operational planning. Her improvised medical techniques were incorporated into advanced training programs, and her navigation methods through hostile territory became case studies for survival schools. Colonel Martinez recommended Maya for the Medal of Honor, citing her extraordinary heroism in rescuing 2 wounded personnel under impossible conditions. The recommendation highlighted her medical expertise, tactical skills, and moral courage in refusing to abandon fellow operators despite overwhelming enemy presence. Maya herself struggled with the attention her rescue mission generated. She insisted that any special operations soldier would have done the same thing under similar circumstances, though her superiors and the rescued SEALs disagreed with that assessment. "I just did my job," Maya said during the medal ceremony. "We don't leave people behind. That's not negotiable." The impact of Maya's rescue extended beyond the immediate military community. Her story became a symbol of American military values and the lengths to which service members would go to protect each other. Media coverage focused on her medical expertise and tactical skills, rather than sensationalizing the dramatic aspects of the rescue. Maya returned to operational duty after recovering from her injuries, though she was eventually reassigned to training positions where her experience could benefit other operators. Her techniques for treating critical injuries in hostile environments became standard curriculum at several military medical schools. Rodriguez and Jackson both returned to full duty and continued their special operations careers. They maintained contact with Maya and credited her with not only saving their lives but also demonstrating the highest standards of military professionalism under extreme stress. The enemy forces that had declared Maya's position overrun never realized that they had failed to prevent one of the most successful rescue missions in recent military history. Intelligence reports later confirmed that her tactical movement techniques had been so effective that enemy commanders believed all American personnel in the area had been eliminated. Maya Chen's walk through the main gate of Forward Operating Base Alpha, carrying 2 wounded SEALs, became one of the most celebrated moments in the base's history. The image of a presumed dead soldier returning with rescued comrades embodied everything the military valued about courage, competence, and commitment to fellow service members. Years later, when Maya had retired from active duty and was working as a civilian military contractor, she still received letters from young soldiers who had heard her story during training. They wanted to know how they could develop the skills and mental toughness necessary to perform under similar circumstances. Maya's standard response was always the same: master the fundamentals of your profession, never stop learning, and remember that your most important mission is bringing your people home. The technical skills could be taught, but the warrior ethos that drove her to carry 2 wounded SEALs through hostile territory came from a deeper commitment to the values that defined military service. The rescue mission that began with Maya being declared killed in action ended with 3 American service members returning home alive. Her refusal to abandon Rodriguez and Jackson, combined with her exceptional medical and tactical skills, had turned what appeared to be a tragic loss into one of the most inspiring rescue stories in military history. Maya Chen had walked through the gates of Forward Operating Base Alpha, carrying more than 2 wounded SEALs. She had carried with her a demonstration of the warrior ethos that defined American special operations, the absolute commitment to leave no one behind, regardless of the personal cost or tactical difficulty involved in keeping that promise.